Welcome, everybody, to the beginning of our latest series on we're beginning today, overview and introduction to Alma Analytics, but this is the Analytics 8-part series to become an expert. I'm Yoel Kordick, Senior Librarian at Ex Libris. We are delivering this in 3 different time zones. I'm sure you already saw the page of the series. We can pop into that series right now just to take a look. And let's go through what we're going to be doing. Today, we're beginning with a very introductory overview. This is actually the Roadmap webinar series. Sorry about that. And there we are, the Analytics Become an Expert. Sorry about that. Okay. So today we're on our first session, overview and introduction to Alma Analytics. You've seen, I assume, the rest of these. If anyone has not been to this page yet, I'm going to be sending this out in the chat right now. So you'll see this in the chat. If during the session anyone has a question or a comment, feel free to chat right during the session. I don't think anyone can unmute themselves. If you can, you're welcome to speak as well. Everybody has a link to this. And let's begin. I'm just going to check the chat to see if there were any other questions anyone's had. Everyone says, okay, everything works now. Same here. Sound is all right. Okay. Someone said they can hear but can't see. Oh, then they said everything's good. All right. So sorry about that rough start that we started 2 minutes late. Minor technical issues, but here we go. So we're beginning with what do we see on the screen when we access analytics? So right here on this screen now, we have what's called widgets. These are analytics reports which are available to the user. During a future session, we will be creating these, but that leads me into my first comment here. When we talk about analytics, there are 2 main players. There's a designer and there's a consumer. The designer is the person who creates the analytics reports. He or she can create them, delete them, edit them, etc. And that person has a role, designs analytics, which in a moment or two we will see. Then there is the consumer. The consumer is the person who can use the reports. For example, right now, I am consuming the report number of items by library bar graph just by looking at it. If I come into analytics, which I'm just going to do very, very briefly, and then we're going to talk more about it, now I am a designer of analytics. And I can come along and I can, for example, create a new analysis, choose a subject area, and do whatever I would like here. So this person that I'm logged in as now, because I was able to do design analytics and create reports, I'm a designer. Most people in the institution, the vast majority of users in the institution, are consumers. Usually there's only 1 or 2 people who are able to actually create the reports, maybe a few more than 1 or 2, but definitely not a large amount of people. And the majority of them are consumers. That's one small introduction, which we're going to go more in depth in a moment. The other important introductory comment is we are currently releasing a new user interface within Alma for the analytics. The actual creation of the reports is remaining the same. However, this menu here, it may already look different than what some of you have. This menu here, I clicked on Analytics on the top left, and I see a menu like this. Note that I have Access Analytics, Access Data Visualization, Access Analytics Primo, Access Data Visualization Primo. The reason I see this type of interface here is because I'm using the new user interface. Everybody can change to this new user interface. In May, it will become the default for everybody. And by the way, we have a Alma 2023 Roadmap webinar series that if we were to go look at the Alma 2023 Roadmap webinar series, we'll see we have a session dedicated to the new analytics user interface. We've included it in, here it is, March 22nd. We've included it in the Roadmap webinar series because it's part of the new Alma user interface, and which has undergone an overall change, renovation. But we're also going to be discussing it within this session on the analytics. So every institution can change this on their own. Sorry about that. And there we go. So every institution can change this on their own. If you click here on the name of your user on the top, there's going to be a link here to feature rollout configuration. And within the feature rollout configuration, one of the options is to use the new analytics or not use the new analytics. If I turn this off by toggling this, so now it's off, I will have the older user interface. During these sessions, not only this session now, but the later session, we've got sessions for 2 other time zones, we will not be using this older interface. We will be using the new interface because it's coming out in May in any case. We're already the beginning of February. Everybody can already use it, so we didn't see that it would be efficient to be using the older interface. So that's just an introductory comment. If in your institution you see something different than what I see on the screen, that's the reason. I'm using the new interface. I'm going to switch back to the new interface, which means clicking the user on the top right, clicking the feature rollout configuration, and choosing new analytics. And then it automatically switches. So I'm going to stop for one moment just to make sure that's clear to everybody, and I'm going to go look at the chat. So let's go into the chat and let me see if anybody has a question or a comment there. Okay, I don't see any questions or comments, so I guess that's clear. Okay, now, when I click analytics, I see the option to create an analysis, either in analytics or data visualization. For Alma, the first 2 are for Alma. The second, or the third and fourth are for Primo. Now, this will appear for institutions using Primo V. There are still institutions not using Primo V. They will not see the option to use analytics or data visualization for Analytics Primo from within Alma. The reason I see this option to do the create analysis is because I have a role called Designs Analytics. Right now, everybody sees that I have this. In fact, I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to put it here because we're going to compare in a moment. And we're talking now about this section here to create an analysis. The reason I see this, and many of you, if you're trying this or will try this on your own institution, will not see that. The reason is because I have a role called Designs Analytics. So I'm going to go into my user details just to show that. And here I've got a role called Designs Analytics. We'll go down to the D. Here it is. If I disable that role, Designs Analytics, and I save this user, and I sign out, and I sign in. So now I no longer have it. I have analytics objects list, which we'll talk about soon, shared with me, which we'll talk about soon, out of the box reports, which we'll talk about soon. I no longer have designs analytics. If we come here to the picture before I changed my user, I did have it. So that's the first thing. That's the role designs analytics. There's also an analytics objects list, which we'll be talking about during these sessions. And the reason I see that is because I am either a general system administrator or an analytics administrator. So we already have the picture here that I see this analytics objects list. If I were to come back to my user now, I know we're not talking specifically about analytics yet, but this is important stuff because it deals with who and how can access analytics. So I'm going to disable the analytics administrator here now. And I will give myself again the designs analytics. And I will also disable the general systems administrator. And I will save that. And log out, log in. Anytime roles are changed, it requires logging in again. And now we'll again do the analytics menu. Now I no longer have the analytics objects list. All I have is the My Analytics shared with me. I do have the option to do the create analysis because I gave myself the designs analytics again. So the analytics administrator or general system administrator, they give the option to do the analytics objects list. The designs analytics gives the option to do the create analysis. I'm going to just give myself back that role. We'll review that via a few slides of a PowerPoint, and then we'll move on. So I will give myself again the analytics administrator. I can have either the analytics administrator or the general system administrator in order to have the analytics objects list, which we'll talk about later. Okay, so I gave myself those roles again, both the designs analytics and the general system administrator. We will sign out, sign in. And now I should see everything. So now if we go to analytics, this will pop up in a moment. Takes a second or two to load. There we go. So now I see everything because I have all of the roles. Let's take a look at that in a more organized way. So we started out by saying we have consumers and designers. The consumers are the users who can see and use reports. It might be a scheduled report they receive via email. It might be a widget on the dashboard. It might be a link to a report from within Alma. And then there are the designers who can go into analytics or data visualization, by the way, and create, edit, and delete reports. So that we already stated. We also said that we have an analytics administrator who can do the configuration, including the analytics objects list. And then we have the designs analytics who can go in and create, edit, delete reports. And we saw what happens when I add or remove those roles from a user. I simply don't have access to a menu. And that's all throughout Alma, as you know. Alma is role-based. Rather than there are some systems for whatever reason will have everyone has the same menu, and when someone goes and clicks a menu, they'll get a message, you don't have permission for this. Alma is role-based such that the menu won't even appear if a user doesn't have permission. So we saw this, that when the user has both analytics administrator and design analytics, he can create reports, and he or she can do the objects list. If the user only has design analytics but not analytics administrator, then he or she will not have the analytics objects list. And just the opposite, a user that doesn't have designs analytics will not have the option to do the analytics objects. Consumers, we're going to talk the details about it later, but suffice now that a user can view the reports as a consumer. I can, for example, come here and click this cataloging activity. It opens a new tab and it will open the report because I'm a consumer now. How these get into this list, these are called favorites. We can talk about that soon, but suffice to say, right now, what I'm doing here is I'm being a consumer. I'm reading or viewing the reports. I'm not actually creating them. Okay, I will stop for a moment. We will go to the chat and let's see if we have any questions or comments. No questions or comments. When it gets kind of quiet, I like to just make sure everyone's still with me. Can you just either send in a chat and say, yes, we're still with you, or perhaps even raise your hand, either of the two, just to make sure everyone's with us. Okay, people are saying they're with us and people are raising their hand. Great. Okay, the next topic to talk about is not a crucial one for being able to use analytics, but it is something that people should be aware of. When I come into analytics, I'm going to click Analytics, Access Analytics. I'm using something called the Oracle Analytics Server. This is a product from Oracle. And it's Oracle Analytics 6.4 is the specific release. And I just clicked up on here. You can click this help sign if you're interested of what exactly this is. You can also go My Account, which will give a little bit of information. But if you're interested in knowing what is the product we're using, you can click this help here. And we're using the analytics server from Oracle Business Intelligence, and you can read about it here. Next topic. The data comes into analytics via something called ETL, which stands for extract, transform, load. For example, if I'm in analytics, I'm just going to create anything just for the example. A very basic report. Let's say I want number of loans and I want number of loans by loan year. And that's all I want. So this is data that is coming from Alma into analytics. When the data comes from Alma to analytics, it undergoes the ETL. It is extracted from Alma, transformed into a format that analytics can use, and then loaded to analytics. And that happens every night. And you can see that if we click again on the analytics, on the bottom here, it says data available as of. I'm going to take that and paste it somewhere. Just so I can point it out differently. So here on the bottom, we see data available as of and date of data uploaded as of. So let's focus on that area. I'm going to take just that section now and that. Okay. So when it says data updated as of, that is the time that the data began to get extracted. So today is February 14th. It's my local time, 11:23 a.m. Last night at 21:05, 9:05 p.m., the data began to get extracted, and it got loaded into Alma this morning, February 14th at 4:08. That means the whole process took 7 hours. We'll round it off, we'll say 9 p.m. last night to 4 a.m. this morning. The whole process took 7 hours. It also means that if something was loaned yesterday at 9:04 p.m. and someone came in this morning at 4:09 p.m., that loan would be there. Let me put that into writing because I know that can be a little confusing, but this is an important point. So if we have this ETL on the left, these dates, let's do it like this. So I'm going to say if a loan was made at 2104 on, let's make this larger too. If a loan was made at 2104 on 13 February, then it will be already seen in analytics at 04:09 a.m. on Feb 14th. We've worked, those of you who have been around a while will know we've made the ETL much faster than it used to be, and we've also timed it so it, when people get into the library in the morning, the data is already there. In other words, it finished at 4:08 a.m. If it finished at 9 a.m., then anyone who made a report at 8 a.m. is having very old data. Now, on the other hand, in addition to what I wrote here, if, however, if a loan was made at 2106 on February 13th, then it will not be seen at 4:09 a.m. on February 14th because the data after 2105 yesterday will be in the next ETL. Someone says, is the date and time local time? Yeah, that's your local time, just like all of the other times that you have in Alma. Like the loan time will appear in your local time, etc. This is my local time and my local format with the month in the middle. Let's see if there's other questions. Is enabling the new analytics option per user or system-wide? It's per user. When I came in and clicked the link here, let's go back. Oh, I got this thing open. I will close that. When I came in to here, this is per user. Sorry, I didn't point that out. And it's per user because I'm clicking here. When it's a system-wide definition, then that's done in a different manner. So you won't be influencing other users if you change it. Okay, let me go see if there's other questions. No. Okay. So that's the ETL times. It's important because there are institutions that are doing loans 11 p.m. and they won't be in the next report. Or not only I'm talking about loan date, it's everything. If an item became overdue at library closing time, which may be 10 p.m., and the ETL ran at 2105, like in our situation, 9:05 p.m., then the item that became overdue at 10 p.m. won't be considered overdue in analytics yet. Okay. That covers that, and I don't see any questions on that. So we'll move on. Now we're going to start talking about the folder structure. First, we'll see it in analytics, and then we're going to go look at a PowerPoint. So the access to analytics, if somebody has the role designs analytics, then from the analytics menu here on the top left, if they click access analytics, they open the analytics. Within here, there is a folder structure of where all of the reports are saved. Now, I'm using the word reports because colloquially, that is how people refer to them. However, the technical word for an analytics report is an analysis. Like here where it says create analysis. This doesn't say create report, but we say report because that's what people typically say. So I'm going to click catalog here so that we'll see the makeup of the catalog. So there are several directories. In my institution here, The name of my institution is Demo Alma University. If I was University of East Smithtown, then it would say University of East Smithtown. Let's go through the folders first here, and then we're going to do it in the PowerPoint. So my folders is a folder that includes reports that only I can see. If I and my colleague both have role Designs Analytics and I log in here and she logs in on her PC, she will not see what I see in my folders. My folders is typically used if there's a user working on a report and he or she doesn't want anyone else to see it yet because it's still in progress. Or perhaps he or she is the only one that ever uses the report. So instead of putting it elsewhere, we'll see the other directory soon, the person can save it here in the My Folders, and no one else can see it. You'll notice here that there are different icons. There's this icon, and there's this icon. This icon, the circular icon that kind of looks like a pie chart, means that it's a analytics report. The icon here with the 4 circles, it is a data visualization workbook. We've had several sessions on data visualization, and we will be touching on that in the series. But the point here is each type of entity, the data visualization workbook or the analytics analysis, they appear in the same file structure. In this case, my folders. The Alma folder is only out of the box, read-only analyses in dashboards. Anything in the Alma folder is what we ex Libris supply to the institutions. Nobody can change data inside the Alma folder or save inside the Alma folder. For example, just as an example, if I were to come here to the acquisitions and I were to come to reports, and I would say, I want to open the top 5 vendors spending year to date. And I'll do it with edit. We'll talk about open and edit and all that kind of stuff another time. So I have a very simple report. If I were to take this report now and make some kind of a change, I'm going to add a table here instead of just a graph. And I'll come over here and make a minor change. I will say, I'll get rid of that filter. And I will change this to say vendor, just so I change something. Okay, so I made a little change here. Now, if I try to save this, I'm going to say save as, and I stay in this same folder, Alma Acquisitions Reports, and I call it Top 5 Vendors Spending Year to Date. I'll just give it a date suffix. I'm going to get a message that I don't have permission, access denied, because the folder Alma is a read-only folder. That's the folder that we supply things. So in order that it stays with our default ready-to-use reports and dashboards, nobody can write in there. However, when I say write in there, I mean save in there. It's a read-only, not a read and write. So I could, however, say save as. Again, give it some kind of another name. I could even keep it the same name. And now if I were to choose somewhere else, for example, my folders, I can save it in my folders, no problem. Let's even put that over there next to it so it looks nice. Or I can say save as and save it under the name of the institution. And my institution is called Demo Alma University, and I can put it in here, reports and acquisitions. Okay, so I can save it here as well. I can also save it in the community folder. I'm going to click Save As again. The community folder is a folder that the whole world has access to. If I save it here, I'm not going to actually save it, but if I were to save it here, shared reports, reports, then everybody would be able to see this report. Or to be more exact, everybody in the same data center will immediately see the report. On Friday, there is a synchronization of all of the data centers. And then by Saturday, everybody will see it in all of the data centers. And by the way, this is documented exactly how to use it. If we were to say here, Alma Ex Libris Analytics Community Folder Structure. That should be enough words. You don't even have to spell it properly. We got it. So that is explained in here as well. And so it's got the main directories. It explains what the directories are. It also explains how they are synchronized. So it's all explained here. Let's go back. So again, Alma, my folders, only I can see it. Other staff in my institution cannot see what's here. The Alma folder, read only. That's what Ex Libris supplies. Community folder, that's what everyone can see, the whole world. And by the way, they can change it. So you're best off, if something is important, keep it in your folder. If it's something you want to share with people, you can put it in the community folder. The name of the institution folder, everybody in your institution can see everything in there and change it and delete it. So if it's something you don't want anyone to ever touch, you can put it in the My folders. If an institution has Leganto and or Rapido, so these are also read-only folders. If I were to come into the Leganto folder and take anything, doesn't matter what, and try to save this. If I were to say save as now, keeping it here, ABC, I don't have permission. Anything with the name of a product is something we supply out of the box. Leganto, Rapido, Alma, Rialto Gum. So that's the folder structure. Let's go look at the PowerPoint and then we'll see if there's questions. I see actually somebody says, I assume people can see your report, but not your data. Yes, I should have pointed that out too. In the community folder, for example, if I were to come to the community folder and go to shared reports, it of course is working only on my data and not on everyone's data. If I were to go into these fulfillment miscellaneous reports, for example, so I see here, for example, University of York or UNSW contributed a report called Monthly Loan Statistics. If I run this, it will give the monthly loan statistics in my institution, not in UNSW's institution. But the report structure is according to the way it was made by UNSW. So yes, people can see the report, but of course not the data. Okay, let's go look at what we just stated via the PowerPoint, make sure we covered everything, and also make sure there is no questions or comments. Okay, so we said that there's the My folders, which is the read, write, personal folder, Only the logged in user can see it. Then we have the folders of the various products. Inside them, we supply out of the box reports. It's a read only folder. Then we have the name of the institution. That's a folder which is read and write. Anybody in the institution can see it. And then we have the community folder, which is a read write folder accessible to the whole world. We also saw that's how it looks. And that covers everything. So let's see. Another question came in. When I choose a report, it always opens in a new browser tab, not in the frame of analytics. How can I change this? Okay. I'm going to take these questions just because it's nicer when everyone can see them. So somebody asked this. When I choose a report, it will always open up in a new browser tab. Before I answer, I have an answer, but before I want to confirm that we're talking about the same thing. So are you saying that if you come from catalog here and open a report, if you were to click edit here, is that what you're referring to? Or are you referring to from within Alma, you open a report from here? Person who asked that. I'll already start answering while you're answering. Anytime an analytics, the first, okay. That's a browser setting then. When you have here, when you click this, if it's opening in a new tab and not the same tab, it's your browser. There's a browser setting. Check also, try it in two different browsers. Try it in Edge, Chrome, and Firefox just to be sure. Because there are definitions. We're getting a little off the plan, but that's fine. That's why we ask for questions. There are definitions of the analytics that come from the browser. And there are definitions which come if you click here on the top right, there's something called My Profile. I'm clicking on the top right where there's like a happy face, and then My Account. So here, for example, the language and the date format and things like that are here. What you're describing, we've seen that before. It's something inside the browser. Okay, another question. Can you remind me what the icons mean again? Yes. I'm going to do an example in order to explain, rather than just say this is this and this is this. Let's take an example of a folder. I'm going to go to Alma Demo University, which is my institution. I'm going to go to reports. And in case other times we start making reports and saving them somewhere, I'm going to make a folder here. The question now, just so everybody sees, I'm not including anyone's name when I put out the question, so feel free to say whatever you would like. Nobody will know it's you. I'm going to make a folder here. So I'm under Demo Alma University Reports, and I will say new folder on the top left. There's a down arrow next to what looks like a graph. I'm just going to say new folder, and I'll call this Analytics Become an Expert, BAE 2023. Okay, so now I have a folder. Now let's make something very basic, create analysis. And I'll get the other questions in a moment. I'm going to make a very basic analysis. I'll say I want physical items. And I want number of items by library, or even by location. Let's say by library name. Okay, just so I have a very basic report. And I'll say library name, filter is not null. Okay, and I will save this, save as. So I'm saving now an analytics analysis, which we said we typically refer to as reports. I'm saving it in this folder, Analytics BAE 2023, Become an Expert. And I'm just going to call it number of items per library. Okay. Now I'm going to go to data visualization, which we're going to talk about at a later time. And here I will create a workbook. And here I'll use a different subject area, though it really doesn't matter. I'll use e-inventory, add to workbook, and I will say, give me the number of available portfolios, and I'll put that in a table. And I want to know the number of available portfolios per electronic collection name. And I will say, give me filter in the top. Well, let's even say we want filter type top 10. Okay, great. And I'll sort this high to low. So now I'll save this in the same folder. So I'm going to go, it's defaulting to my folders, but I'll go to all shared folders. I can view this as a list. It's nicer, in my opinion anyway. Under reports and then analytics BAE 2023. And I'll call this, by the way, you see, even though I'm in data visualization, I can see the analytics report that's already there. And I will call this number of portfolios per collection, top 10. Okay. Now that was all to answer the question. I'm going to close the data visualization and I'm closing the analytics so I can explain something. Okay. So now let's go take a look at that folder, and that will answer the analytics question, the icons question. So we'll say design access analytics. I'm starting now in analytics. I go to catalog. Here's the icon. So the bottom icon means it was created in data visualization. Data visualization is similar to analytics. It uses the same data, the same subject areas. It's a different interface to create reports, which are called workbooks. It has more of a focus on the visualization aspect. And that icon with the 4 dots inside what looks like an L, that means it's a data visualization workbook. Now, even though I started here from analytics, if I open this, it's going to open in data visualization. It's just like, now I'm in data visualization. It's just like if you go to your Windows Explorer and you have an Excel file and a PowerPoint file, and if you double click on the PowerPoint, it'll open in PowerPoint, and you double click on the Excel, it will open in Excel. Same here. If I click on the data visualization, it'll open in data visualization. I'm going to stay in data visualization now just to explain something else. If I were here now and I also went to the catalog, and I go to that same folder, which was in shared folders, demo, Alma, reports, this. So now, same thing, I'm in data visualization. If I open the analytics one, so it opens in analytics. All right, let's go back to the chat and see what else we got. Is it possible to open more than one report at the same time? Yes. I assume you're referring to the design analytics. Is that correct? The person who does designs analytics? I'll show both ways. If you're a consumer, you can do it. And if you're design analytics, you can do it. I'll show both. So if I'm now, let me close these. If I am a consumer, but the person didn't answer if she's a consumer or a designer, so I'll show both. As a consumer, okay, she says, he or she says designer, but I may as well show both. So from here, these are what's called favorites. We're going to learn more about these in the future. If I open one of these, it automatically opens in another tab. So here it is in another tab. And if I open another one, it too will open in another tab. I'm going to get the count of loans. It doesn't remove one. I still have this one. And now I also have this one. So they open in separate tabs. Now, in addition to that, I'm going to close both of these tabs. If someone comes into Designs Analytics, oh, sorry, I meant to do this. Access Analytics. So now I'm a designer, and I go to Catalog, and let's say I want to open, let's go to Fulfillment, Reports. Let's say I want to open count of items loaned and count of items loaned by patron group simultaneously. I can duplicate the tab first. So I'm going up to the top of this tab, which is the Designs Analytics. I'll right click and say duplicate tab. And now in the first tab, I'll open count of items loaned. And in the second tab, I'll do count of items loaned by patron group. So now in the first tab, I've got this one, count of items loaned. And in the second tab, I got this one, count of items loaned by patron group. I will caution, though, be careful when you start using the tabs. You don't want a situation where you're in the middle of editing something and you had it open in another tab and you went and saved that one when this one was more advanced. It's nice for comparing things. It's nice if you have something that takes a long time to load. So you want to do something else in another tab meanwhile. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions or comments. I don't see any other questions or comments, so we will move on. Dashboards. Let's see something regarding dashboards. And one moment, please. I will. Okay, that wasn't a question. Someone just sent in a comment. Okay. Dashboards. So if I were in Alma here and I want access to a dashboard, I'm going to put a dashboard here and we'll see how do I get these are called favorites. We're going to talk more in depth about them right now, but right now I just want to add a link to there. So the shared with me are all of what we call an analytics object. Now, while we have a session dedicated to that, I want to explain what an object is. An analytics object can be a widget. The widgets are, for example, these things here which appear on the screen. They will load in a moment. These are widgets. You can put them in different languages. They can come either from Primo or from Alma. And that's one way that we stated at the beginning that a consumer can see data from analytics. Another way we already saw at the beginning is by opening these reports. Another way is a dashboard. A dashboard is typically a set of analytics reports that are bound together by some type of topic. Someone wouldn't make an analytics dashboard about one tab from a number of electronic collections that aren't activated, and another one with API usage and fulfillment, and another one with number of records cataloged. They usually focus all on one area. If I go to the shared with me, I will see all of the analytics objects, including dashboards, that I can access. When I say I mean the logged in user, because each dashboard, when they get built, I know this is a lot of information, but we will return to this analytics objects in a later session. Each type of analytics object gets roles, and only users with those roles can access it. So I'm going to filter this by type dashboard. And so we have one here called Alma Logins. It's Alma Logins dashboard. I can also see the dashboards. I'm going to get out of here and say all again. And say here fulfillment. Let's go right to the analytics objects list. And again, we'll get the dashboards. Okay, so these are all of the dashboards, not just the ones I can access, but all of the dashboards. And this one here, I'm going to add this to my favorites. It's called Fulfillment, Loans, Returns, and Overdue. It says it's in favorites. Here, now I see it. So if I click this, now a dashboard is opening. This is a explanation of what is the dashboard. So as you can see, I've got four tabs. They all deal with the same general topic, which is overdue items, loans by CircDesk, returns by CircDesk, and loans by hour. Loans and returns. Now, if I choose a library here, for example, I'll choose the main library. Typically, unless someone on purpose designs it differently, when a filter is chosen on one tab of a dashboard, it will also be chosen by default on the next one. For example, I'm going to switch now to loans by CircDesk, and it's still already on library main library. And if I go to returns, it's still on library main library. And if I were to change this to the main library and the engineering library, then again, when I switch tabs, it will be on education library and main library. So we've got several tabs, each with reports that all deal with generally the same thing. And we're going to look more on the folder structure of them. But dashboards are a very popular way to share data. I'm going to take this overlap analysis dashboard and also add that to my favorites. So now here also, now I have the overlap analysis dashboard. Again, these are all dealing more or less with the same thing. They're all overlap P&E. Now this one creates the report without keeping the filters on top. For example, here we have the filter remaining on top. Here, because we wanted maximum space, if I were to fill something in here, LC classification code, and say okay, so it pops out into another one. And I can here click return, and I'm back. And then I fill in again. Fill in the prompts. These are called prompts if I didn't already state. But these are all very similar. They do an overlap analysis. This is P&E, the physical and the electronic. This is physical and digital. There's one here called P&P, physical and physical. So that's a dashboard. The dashboards take several different types of reports, all on the same theme, bring them in together, and typically share prompts. All of these reports have the same prompts. Unlike the fulfillment one, which we saw a moment ago, it doesn't keep the prompt when I switch tabs, which wouldn't be relevant here because they're different types of overlaps. but it is the same prompt. Let me see if there's any questions on the dashboards before we go look at the folder structure of the dashboards. Today is a very introductory day. I know it's much more exciting to go in and actually start making reports, but we have to have a good solid understanding of how everything fits together before we start jumping in and creating the reports. Let me go to the chat and see if anything came in. Nope. Okay. So let's go on. These dashboards, for example, we're talking about the title level overlap analysis dashboard and the fulfillment loans returns overdue dashboard. Let's go take a look at those inside the catalog of analytics. So I'm going to click catalog here. And we've got under the Alma folder, which is where we said are the out-of-the-box default reports. It includes also the dashboards that we Ex Libris supply. So, for example, under acquisitions, we have 3 folders: dashboards, prompts, reports, and we've got the acquisitions dashboards here. If we go to fulfillment, again, we have dashboards, prompts, reports. Under dashboards, this is the one we opened a moment ago: fulfillment, loans, returns, and overdue dashboard. There's, to say always is always dangerous, but it usually each of these folders will have dashboards, prompts, and reports subfolders, because that's what's used to create the dashboard. Sometimes it'll only be dashboards and reports. If I go to e-inventory, he's got dashboards, prompts, reports. Digital only has reports. Dara doesn't have anything. Course reserves doesn't have a prompts folder. It has a dashboards and a prompts. Typically, though, they have all 3. This simply means there are no prompts that have been created for a dashboard. It's not wrong. It's just typically we also have prompts for the dashboards, but it's not mandatory. So, for example, let's go to the fines and fees dashboard. If we open that, I'm going to open it from here. It has user cash transaction, open cash transactions, and library type transactions. Typically, each of these will be a different report. This would be one report. This would be one report. And these prompts should be saved in the prompts folder. So for example, if I come back here and I'm in the fulfillment, inside the prompt, so we've got all of these prompts. These prompts, we have a session dedicated for dashboards. These prompts is what's displaying the dates here, or the unit name, the status, etc. Each of these reports is coming from this report folder. These are all the different reports, and these work with the prompts. I'm just going to go to the user cash transactions just as a small example. And if we come to the criteria tab, we see the fine fee status is prompted, owner library name is prompted, transaction date is prompted. That's because here's the transaction date, for example, a status. So they work together. The report works together with the prompts and whatever the user puts in there. So that's the dashboards. I'm going to open the chat, see if there's any questions or comments. No questions or comments. Okay, just because it's quiet again, can I just get a quick hand raise if anyone is with me? Okay, great. Okay, so the last thing is, this is like a lead in to next week, is creating an analytics report or a data visualization workbook. And we're not going to do anything super crazy now. We just want to show how does it work? How is it done? So to create a new analytics report. First of all, just as a little trivia, what role do I need in order to be able to create an analytics report? I'll give you a hint. The initials. All right, somebody already answered. 2 people answered. Great. Design analytics. Another one, 3 people. Great. So I would go into the design access analytics because I have the role designs analytics. So I access the analytics. And then from here, I would create an analysis. And then we have subject areas. There's not one big giant subject area of everything. It's broken down into areas. So, for example, I want we already used fulfillment in e-inventory. Let's say I want requests. This is requests in Alma, not borrowing requests and not lending requests. And let's say I want to know how many requests. These are called measures. Anything with a yellow rectangle is a measure. So I can drag that in. And then I can say the request details. I get the request type, or if it's active, or who knows what. I'll say, oh, I had request type right there. There we go. Oops. When you can't find something, you can always search here. So I'm going to say type. And here we are, request type description. I'll say I want my request type description. This is a basic filter. And I want this to be a physical item loan, a physical item request. I can search here too. I'm going to click search. Now I get it opened differently. Patron physical item request. So now I have number of requests, filter by patron physical item request, and maybe I want by request date. So here's request date, and I'll put in the year. Now we don't need to display this request type description. It's enough to have a filter. And so now I've got the number of requests per year. I'm going to start it at, someone asked if we can do the same report in data visualization. Yes. And in fact, we'll do that. I'll start it at 2017. So I'll say year is greater than or equal to 2017, just making something very basic. So now we've got this, and then I can put it in, add another visualization to it. For example, a line graph. Let's say we want a line graph. Great. Now we probably don't want 2023 because 2023 is going to be super low because it's only February. So request date year is not equal to. Okay, I could have also said between 2017 and 2022. So now I've got a basic report. We will save that. Or to be more exact, an analysis. Now, I can't save it in the Alma folder. We already saw that. I'm going to save it in the name of my institution. And under reports, I will come here to the folder we made, and I will call this patron. I never tried to save in the same folder a data visualization workbook and an analytics report by the same name. We're going to do a test now and see. Okay, so that's a very basic report. It uses subject areas, measures, and attributes. The measure we saw is something that has that yellow square on it, a rectangle, and attributes are the other fields. And then we can put it in different visualizations, and there's really a million different a lot of, not a million, but there's a lot of different visualizations here. We could have also made a bar graph. So now we've got bar graph, line graph, table. Okay. Now the question was, let me go back to the chat. I'll copy it. I don't know if somebody wrote, I don't know if that's for me. Someone so can't paste a screenshot under complete create analysis. Okay, I'm going to make this same one now in data visualization. That's what someone asked. Can we make this same report in data visualization? So accessing the data visualization, I will close this now. Let's make sure I saved it. So now we'll go into data visualization. Analytics, access data visualization. Previously, we did access analytics. Now we're doing access data visualization. I saw there's a few more questions. I will get to them too. I'm good. It's a good thing we made this an hour and a half. Last year, we did this an hour each session, and they were kind of tight. So here we create on the top, and instead of choosing analysis, we choose workbook. And then under subject areas, we have the same subject areas. I will choose requests like we did last time. We can also display this in a grid, in a list. We'll choose requests. And we'll do the same thing. We'll get the request measures. Here, the measure has a picture of a number sign. So we'll get the number of requests. Like we did before, we'll put this in a table. Here, instead of doing add visualization, we change the visualization. You can actually also add a visualization by dragging in from the left pane there, but I'm going to change this to a table. Then we had the request year. So I'll take the request date and put in the request date year as well. Then we'll limit, like we did before, the request date to 2017 to 2022. There's all different ways to make filters here, and we'll talk about that another time. And then we've got the visualizations. So we made also a line graph and a bar graph. So same thing here. I'm going to duplicate this twice. So here I got a menu, edit, and I can duplicate it. And then this one, I can make a line graph. So I've got a thing here, change visualization type. This is a line graph. And now I've got my line graph. And we can play around with this and do all different kinds of definitions of it. Then we could also duplicate this, just so we have it just like the other one. We'll say edit, duplicate, and here we can say, for example, we can make this a little nicer that way. Now we see the whole screen. Here I can say I want the bar graph. So now we have one like we had in analytics. Now I'll save this. Now, I will give it the same name we had, and I'm going to save it in that folder. This is going to be an interesting test. We'll save it in the folder we've been using. No, can't save it by the same name. It'll overwrite it. So patron by year, I'll call it DV. Okay. So now we've got them both in our folder. And we will see the different icons there as well. Then I'm going to go to the questions. So here we'll say catalog. And shared folders, demo, reports, this one, here we go. So now we have two DVs, the first ones with the L, with the icon that looks like an L and 4 dots, and then we have these analytics. Okay, let me go to the chat and see what we got going on there. Let me scroll up. Okay, someone says, can subject areas be combined? Yes, in a very limited manner. And that brings me to something about the documentation. I'm going to send out a link to a page so everyone will have this. And if we go to analytics, so this page here includes very, very many explanatory how-to documents about analytics. One of them is combined subject areas. Let me do a Control F, combine. How to combine two subject areas in Alma Analytics. I'm going to copy that link and send that out as well. So person who asked, wait, that's how to combine two subject areas. This is the whole page. Okay. Someone says, how can I sign up for next week's session? You can sign up for next week's session on the Analytics Become an Expert page. I'm going to go in there right now and send out the link to that as well. But all I did was type Analytics Become an Expert in Google. We make sure that all of our stuff is very retrievable, discoverable in Google. So here, each of the sessions has a registration link. So I'm sending that out as well. Let's go on. Okay, can you do this report and data visualization? I did. Person who's saying you can't paste a screenshot, and can I make an example for this possibility? I'm not sure. Oh, create analysis from simple logical SQL. I don't think we're going to get to that during this session, during these sessions with what we've got covered. We will be talking about filtering via SQL. Are there any limitations with data visualization compared to the standard interface? Not that I can think of at this stage. There used to be less integration of it with Alma, but not anymore. Come to the March 22nd. I believe it's March 22nd. Let me just check again. We called it the Alma 2023 Roadmap Series. I'm going to be showing in depth the developments we did in the analytics interface in Alma, which relate to data visualization. So here you'll see about that. If you come, it's March 22nd. Yes. I'll send out the link to this as well. This is the roadmap series. Let's see if there's anything else. Someone asks, if analytics and visualization are so similar, what are the different purposes? The data visualization tends to focus more on the visualizations. There are, for example, a prediction in data visualization that doesn't exist in Alma. I would suggest as well, I'm going to send another one out here. This is our developers network. And if you go into the blog here and just write data visualization, and I'm going to send this out as well. I'm going to click data visualization tag. So these are all different things about data visualization. So you can come in here and read more about the data visualization. It's more focused on the visual part, would be an explanation of what's the difference. Okay, it looks like that's it. So we hope to see everybody next week. We've got the page you all have. Someone says, is there a handout on that doc page explaining how to construct Boolean search statements, combining and or in analytics using parentheses? I don't think there is a document describing that. It uses a standard, when you do a SQL filter, it uses a standard SQL type of query. And we'll be talking about the filters. Can I use data analytics reports and transfer it to DV without creating it as a separate report? No, you can't convert a data visualization to analytics, and you can't convert analytics to data visualization. They're two separate ones. Okay, so thanks everybody. I don't see any other questions here. We hope to see everyone next week. Any final questions? No. Okay, so thanks again, and I apologize again for those 2 minutes at the beginning where we had a bit of a little mess. Not a mess, trouble connecting with a minor technical difficulty. So have a nice day and hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.